Hey folks, John Adamson with Seeking Light. For some ambiance today, I give you my 89 Volvo with a missing headliner. This part needs to still be torn off. Get the rest of that off. And then the whole thing needs to be replaced. Yesterday, driving in heavy rain, discovered that rear window, you can kind of see in the video that it's cracked open. My son had put it down a little bit and it wouldn't go back up. So fortunately, the window regulator decided to work enough so that I could get it mostly closed. But I think it's kicked the bucket, or at least the electrical wiring has kicked the bucket. So here's my physical therapy brain trying to make sense of this and thinking anatomy, like the anatomy of a mechanical problem. Neither my window switch nor the one on the back door is working. And they both stopped working at the same time. So I'm thinking, okay, it's possibly not electrical. And the other windows work. So I don't think it's a fuse issue, meaning a fuse usually would control all the windows, usually. But I don't know enough about old Volvos to say that's for sure. So I'm thinking it's got to be window motor. And I was trying to find them this morning. And being that this is a 33-year-old vehicle, they're not made anymore. Trying to find one's going to be a challenge. Hopefully eBay will be able to hook me up. But anyway, I'm gonna probably soon take that apart. I mean, I want to get that window closed. I mean, it's closed almost all the way, so I'm not that worried about much water getting in. Although we had torrential rain. Like if it kept up like that for 40 days and 40 nights, we would have had a worldwide flood. It was unbelievable, and we had to drive in that, which was scary. But the Volvo did great, had new tires. I hydroplaned once, got a little bit scared. Thank God for the new tires. And they're relatively skinny tires, which helps in situations where you have heavy water. The skinnier tire is going to get down through the water easier than a big fat tire that provides more area that the water can lift it up. So what else can I tell you about the Volvo? Oh yeah, the odometer. The odometer's broken, but decided yesterday as I was driving at roughly 3 hours of driving to start working. And then the gas gauge, which was working, decided to stop working. And then I filled it last night and then it's working again. So here's my PT brain thinking through the diagnostics again. I'm wondering if the little plunger sensor thing that reads fuel level in the tank, if it gets below a certain level in the tank, it's just not working in those lower ranges. So the gas gets down, the needle goes down, the gas tank level is going down, and then suddenly it just doesn't read anymore, so it just plunges to empty. So that's not as big a priority as the odometer, because if I know how many miles between fills, at least I'll know, okay, it's about time I need to fill my tank. So I'm gonna fix the odometer. It's a little tiny gear. Okay, so I found this out. My odometer stopped working. That reads your miles. My speedometer is still working. So if it was both odometer plus speedometer, it might be a sensor that's underneath the car. But because it's just odometer and not speedometer, the likely issue is a gear, which I looked up. So anyway, being a mechanic and being somebody in healthcare is practically the same in some regards, as long as you know the anatomy and the physiology, like the nerve center of the car, the electrical, the muscles or the motor, the limbs or the suspension. There's a lot of carryover between the two. Early in my career, there was this orthopedic doctor who, he was a tough dude to deal with, but he was not only an orthopedic doctor, but he loved working on cars. And in fact, my boss joked, because he had known him for a long time, that he had really thought that the guy was a doctor, an orthopedist, to fund his car passion. But he was an interesting character. But now that I've been working on cars progressively over the last couple of years, I can see why working on a car would require some of the same mental capability as a doctor. In fact, a lot of people think of like their mechanics maybe as being less than educated. But if you find a good mechanic who really knows their stuff, I guarantee that person probably, if they had gone on to medical school, probably would have the same ability to work through being a decent healthcare provider. Just my take on the situation. But, and then again, mechanics are these days charging about as much as a doctor does. Not quite, but and of course they've got expenses with their shop and everything. We just had a vehicle worked on at a Firestone, and I try not to give them too much work to do. So for example, I needed a brake job for my car to pass inspection, not this car, another car, but it also needed all these other things. And the guy started to quote me what it would cost to do the rear brakes on my car. It was going to be like $500. And I'm like, I'll take care of that. And then he started telling me the other things. I'll take care of that. So over this past week, we did the rear brakes, which included a caliper. We did a rear window regulator on my other car, because that was gone. Handle, what else? Wipers, etc. And all of that in parts cost me under $200, and we did the work. It was a little more than $200, but still, all of that together would have been well over $1,000 if I'd let that shop do it. It was some work, a little sore, but we got it done. Especially the brakes, especially rear brakes. Front brakes are easier, believe it or not. At least in my experience, I've done several vehicles' brakes so far, and thankfully we didn't have rear drums. Drum brakes are another matter. Rotors are fairly easy, but drum brakes are another matter. I haven't tackled those yet. So anyway, that's the car chronicles. Now let's talk about the service I was talking about. So Friday, I was privileged in doing a funeral service for a friend of mine, personal friend. Actually was a patient of mine for a little over 2 years. We became close. She had a chronic progressive disease, ALS, and we knew the day was coming when she would say goodbye to us. And I had her on what's called maintenance therapy. If you're in therapy, you know what I'm talking about. And about 3 or 4 months before she passed, she said, "I'm not sure how to ask you this, but would you do my service for me?" Because she knew my background in theology as a minister, and I said I'd be happy to. That was a great blessing. She asked me to do that. So anyway, it was a wonderful service. Family put together some stuff. A close friend, former boyfriend, put some stuff together for her. Everything came together nicely. And I gave about a 7 to 8 minute message, because that's about all we had time for, on John 3:16. But sometimes the best messages are the short ones, and especially if you're only focusing on one verse. So anyway, just a little update. That's why I didn't share on Friday, and I plan to be back tomorrow. We'll see how the morning shapes up, and do our ongoing study of John. We're almost done with the book of John, and our look at the news. But for now, this is John Adamson with Seeking Light, giving you Volvo and car news, as well as a little bit of personal news about a funeral. Anyway, take care. God bless.